how are you today? I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the books I read in 2022, but specifically for this video I'm going to be sharing with you some reading stats that Goodreads gave me, as well as my top rated books from 2022, which are all the books I rated 5 stars on Goodreads. And for this year's book videos, I'm going to be trying something a little bit different in terms of how I'm going to share my 2023 books with you, so stay tuned for that. I'm hoping you will enjoy the new way I'm going to go about it. But now let's just get right into talking about the 2022 books. Starting off with my reading stats. The total number of books I read in 2022 was 53 books. And when I started the year, my goal was 33 books. So I read 20 more books than I had planned to, which is quite exciting for me. And I didn't keep track when I was younger, but I think that's probably the most books I've ever read in a year. So I feel quite a sense of accomplishment from that. The shortest book I read in 2022 was Snowflakes by Ruth Ware at 31 pages. And it was a short, an Amazon short, and was the shortest book that I read last year. The longest was The Bridgerton Collection, Volume 1 by Julia Quinn. It was 1,053 pages. Now, Goodreads counted it as one book, but technically, I would say it's 3 books in one because you can get all of those stories separately, but the one I happened to read, they were all in one book. So that is the longest book I read last year. And my average book length was 306 pages. My average rating across all 53 books on Goodreads was 3.9 out of 5 stars. Some stats it didn't give me would be how many were physical books or ebooks versus audiobooks, and how many nonfiction versus fiction. If that's something you'd like to know, I could try to do that going forward for 2023's videos, so let me know if you would like more details such as that, and I would be happy to try to keep better track of that for you. Now on to the books I read that I rated 5 stars in 2022. If I've counted correctly, there are 12 books that I rated 5 stars. 12 out of 53. I don't know if that's good or not, but hopefully we can get that number up to be a little bit higher this year. The first 5-star book to share is The Magpie Society, Two for Joy by Zoe Sugg and Amy McCullough. This is a sequel to the first Magpie Society book. You can go back and watch my other book videos if you want a lot more detail about that, but I did really enjoy this one. It was entertaining, kept my interest. I got a feeling throughout the book that did turn out to be true, and I enjoyed reading this conclusion to the 2-part story. It does have some surprises with it, and as I said in my past video, I was conflicted on the ending because it kind of leaves you hanging, and I like when things are fully resolved, but overall I did enjoy it. For those of you who may be interested or maybe didn't hear about it in my other videos, I will give you the description about it just to refresh your memory and see if maybe you want to read it for yourself. Audrey and Ivy, determined to bring their fellow student Lola Radcliffe's killer to justice, find themselves in the middle of another mystery when a friend disappears in suspicious circumstances. The only clue is a mysterious card left by the enigmatic Magpie Society. With time running out and the police baffled, Audrey and Ivy must delve deeper than ever into the dark secrets that their school is hiding. The second 5-star book from 2022 is The Maid by Nita Prose, and I'm pretty sure this was Nita's first ever book, and I have to say it was probably one of my top ones for the entire year. Even though I have multiple that are rated 5 stars, I think this was one of the top 5 stars that I really enjoyed. I liked the writing, the plot, and especially the main character of Molly. This was the first book that I could recall reading about a main character with disabilities. While they never disclose exactly what they are. I would guess that Molly has OCD and possibly Asperger's, but I really enjoyed her character and I definitely recommend this book. It kept my interest and kept me engaged the entire time. So if you haven't read it yet, add it to your TBR, go check it out when you can, because I really enjoyed it. Molly Gray is not like everyone else. She struggles with social skills and misreads the intentions of others. Her gran used to interpret the world for her, codifying it into simple rules that Molly could live by. Since Gran died a few months ago, 25-year-old Molly has been navigating life's complexities all by herself. No matter, she throws herself with gusto into her work as a hotel maid. Her unique character, along with her obsessive love of cleaning and proper etiquette, make her an ideal fit for the job. She delights in donning her crisp uniform each morning, stocking her cart with miniature soaps and bottles, and returning guest rooms at the Regency Grand Hotel to a state of perfection. But Molly's orderly life is upended the day she enters the suite of the infamous and wealthy Charles Black, only to find it in a state of disarray and Mr. Black himself dead in his bed. Next for 5-star books is one that surprised me because it's not one initially that I would have thought would have been 5 stars. I got it for free from Amazon, but it's called The Memory of Us by Camilla DeMeo. And I just got it because seeing it on Amazon, the description sounded interesting to me. And it's not typically one I would have picked up or chosen to read. So I'm really glad that it was free and that I did, because it ended up being 5 stars. I would say it's a romantic historical fiction, and while it was tragic in a lot of ways, I did still enjoy it, had to see what happened, and enjoyed the love story. Julianne Westcott was living the kind of life that other Protestant girls in pre-war Liverpool could only dream about. Old money, silk ball gowns, and prominent young men lining up to escort her. But when she learns of a blind and deaf brother institutionalized since birth, the illusion of her perfect life and family shatters around her. While visiting her brother in secret, Julianne meets and befriends Kyle McCarthy, an Irish Catholic groundskeeper studying to become a priest. Caught between her family's expectations, Kyle's devotion to the church, and the intense new feelings that the forbidden courtship has awakened in her, Julianne must make a choice. Uphold the life she's always known, or follow the difficult path toward love. Next up for 5 stars is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and this happens to have been the first Colleen Hoover book I ever read. I had been hearing her talked about a lot on Instagram and other places, and she seemed very popular. And It Ends With Us happened to be the first one of hers that I read and happened to be a favorite and a 5-star read. Sometimes it is the one who loves you who hurts you the most. Lily hasn't always had it easy, but that's never stopped her from working hard for the life she wants. She's come a long way from the small town in Maine where she grew up. She graduated from college, moved to Boston, and started her own business. So when she feels a spark with a gorgeous neurosurgeon named Ryle Kincaid, everything in Lily's life suddenly seems almost too good to be true. Ryle is assertive, stubborn, maybe even a little arrogant. He's also sensitive, brilliant, and has a total soft spot for Lily. And the way he looks in scrubs certainly doesn't hurt. Lily can't get him out of her head, but Ryle's complete aversion to relationships is disturbing. Just so you know, this is a story about relationships and love, but it also contains domestic abuse, so if that's something that you think would bother you, this might not be the book for you. But despite the heavy topic and it being sad at times, I did really enjoy it. Look forward to reading some other books from her, especially the sequel to this one, which I believe is, what is it called? It Starts With Us is the sequel of this, which just came out in 2022, I believe. So hopefully I'll get to read that this year. Next is The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is in the Inheritance Games series. And this was book 2, I believe. I think there's one more that I need to read from her. And I liked this one as well as the first one. It has that whodunit feel to it, as well as the inheritance aspect and a mansion with secrets and hidden passageways. All fun things that I enjoy reading and watching. And I think if you like whodunit mysteries, you would like this series, and hopefully I'll get to read that sequel this year as well. The Inheritance Game, well, actually, I don't want to give away the first one if you haven't read it. So maybe I won't read the description to this one, because as I'm looking at the description, I feel like it's going to give away the first one. So if you haven't even read the first one, I don't want to spoil it for you, but check out that series of the Inheritance Games. The next 5-star book was Meant to Be by Emily Giffin. I've enjoyed all of Emily Giffin's books that I've read, and this was no exception. It's a love story and may remind you somewhat of the Kennedy family. It completely kept my interest and had me wanting to read more and find out what happened. I highly recommend it if you enjoy her books or romantic comedy movies or stories like that. The Kingsley family is practically American royalty, beloved for their military heroics, political service, and unmatched elegance. When Joseph S. Kingsley III is born in 1960, he inherits the weight of that legacy. Growing up with all the Kingsleys' looks and charisma, Joe should have no problem taking up the mantle after his father's untimely death. But he is also a little bit reckless and can't seem to figure out how to channel the expectations of an entire country. No one ever expected anything of Kate, on the other hand. She too grew up in a single-parent household, just her and her mom, scraping by in their small apartment. As a teenager, though, Kate is discovered for her looks. Modeling may be her only ticket out of the cycle of disappointment that her mother has always inhabited. Before too long, her face is everywhere, though she is always aware that she'd be a pariah in her social circles if anyone knew her story. When Joe and Kate's paths cross, their connection is instant. What remains to be seen is whether their relationship will survive the glare of the spotlight that follows Joe everywhere. Next is Beach Read by Emily Henry, and this was, I believe, the first Emily Henry book I read, but I don't remember completely. I just know that what I have read of her I've liked, and this one was a 5-star. Oh, well, I said in my notes here it was the first one I've read, but I had heard about a number of her books. They seemed popular. Now I know why. I also enjoy them. I found myself with this one not wanting to stop reading as I wanted to know what happened. For me, it was a great fun love story with the perfect amount of push and pull. I was rooting for the characters to be together, which I may guess makes me that much more interested in the story, and I recommend it if you like romance, love stories, or chick lit books. A romance writer who no longer believes in love, and a literary writer stuck in a rut engage in a summer-long challenge that may just upend everything they believe about happily ever afters. Augustus Everett is an acclaimed author of literary fiction. January Andrews writes best-selling romance. When she pens a happily ever after, he kills off his entire cast. They're polar opposites. In fact, the only thing they have in common is that for the next 3 months, they're living in neighboring beach houses, broke and bogged down with writer's block. Until one hazy evening, one thing leads to another, and they strike a deal designed to force them out of their creative ruts. Augustus will spend the summer writing something happy, and January will pen the next great American novel. She'll take him on field trips worthy of any rom-com montage, and he'll take her to interview surviving members of a backwoods death cult, obviously. That's where I'll leave it. The next 5-star book was Defining Her by Samantha March. Nellie Hawthorne is a woman who has it all. A devoted husband, her own business, a wealthy lifestyle. But the Nellie she is now is much different from her past. A past filled with abuse, addiction, and men. Nellie's carefully constructed new life is suddenly in jeopardy when a blast from the past emerges in her small town, and her overbearing mother-in-law pushes for grandchildren and questions start being asked. A budding new friendship presents itself at an opportune time, and a once friendless Nellie finds herself growing closer to Prue Doherty. Prue Doherty is the quintessential good girl, always making the right decisions, always playing it safe, until she meets a man that could change all of that. That's where I'll leave the description. It's written from two different perspectives, the female character Prue and Nellie, or female characters Prue and Nellie. Neither had an easy path. They face challenges and as adults are flawed. I did find the story to be interesting and fast read that I enjoyed. Next for 5 stars is Finlay, Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. I kept hearing about this book on BookTube and I am glad I read it. It was a fast read for me, keeping me engaged and entertained. If you like crime genre books that are somewhat suspenseful and comedic, this book is for you. Getting the job done for one single mom takes on a whole new meaning in Finlay, Donovan is Killing It. Finlay Donovan is killing it, except she's really not. A stressed out single mom of 2 and struggling novelist, Finlay's life is in chaos. The new book she promised her literary agent isn't written, her ex-husband fired the nanny without telling her, and this morning she had to send her 4-year-old to school with hair duct taped to her head after an incident with the scissors. When Finlay is overheard discussing the plot of her new suspense novel with her agent over lunch, she's mistaken for a contract killer and inadvertently accepts an offer to dispose of a problem husband in order to make ends meet. Don't want to give too much away, so I'll leave it there. I also believe this one has a sequel. Oh, there's more. There's 3 of them now. So the sequel is Finlay Donovan Knocks Him Dead. So hopefully I'll get to read that sequel this year as well. Lots of sequels to read. But I always want to try new stuff too, so it's hard to decide. The next book on the 5-star list is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. And I think this might be the only one that on audio that got 5 stars, but let's see. Yes, so this, I don't think any of the others I did were audiobook. But this one definitely was, and I rated it 5 stars, partly because it had a different narrator for each chapter from each different person's perspective. So let's say one chapter was from Susie's perspective. Susie would be by one actor. Next might be Bob's perspective. Bob would be a different voice. So they had different actors for every character that was portrayed in the different chapters, which made it much easier to follow along. To me, made it more interesting and engaging. And I hope to read more that do that this year, or listen to more that do that this year. This is a mystery, and not only are there lots of potential victims, but many suspects as well. They are all on a remote island together, and let's just say at this wedding, things don't go according to plan. The bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, the bridesmaid, the body. On an island off the coast of Ireland, guests gather to celebrate 2 people joining their lives together as one. The groom, handsome and charming, a rising television star. The bride, smart and ambitious, a magazine publisher. It's a wedding for a magazine or for a celebrity. The designer dress, the remote location, the luxe party favors, the boutique whiskey. The cell phone service may be spotty, and the waves may be rough, but every detail has been expertly planned and will be expertly executed. But perfection is for plans, and people are all too human. As the champagne is popped and the festivities begin, resentments and petty jealousies begin to mingle with the reminiscences and well wishes. The groomsmen begin the drinking game from their school days. The bridesmaid, not so accidentally, ruins her dress. And I could go on, but I don't want to give too much away, so there you go. Check out that audiobook if you're into that and you get the chance. All right, hopefully you're still with me. We've got 2 books left in the 5 stars. And Interestingly enough, they are from two authors that I've already spoken about. Bet you can guess if you think about it. One being Book Lovers by Emily Henry. If you are a lover of Hallmark movies, I think you would really like this one. Even if you aren't, but like romance or love stories, I think it would be for you too. It has that Hallmark feel to it, but isn't too overly sappy. And I just made a note here that I hope to read more Emily Henry this year. Gosh, there's so much I want to read. How am I going to fit it all in? There's just not enough time to read all these books, but I guess that's a good thing to have plenty of options. One summer, two rivals. A plot twist they didn't see coming. Nora Stevens' life is books. She's read them all. And she is not that type of heroine. Not the plucky one, not the laid-back dream girl, and especially not the sweetheart. In fact, the only people Nora is a heroine for are her clients, for whom she lands enormous deals as a cutthroat literary agent, and her beloved little sister, Libby. Which is why she agrees to go to Sunshine Falls, North Carolina for the month of August, when Libby begs her for a sister's trip away, with visions of a small town transformation for Nora, who she's convinced needs to become the heroine in her own story. But instead of picnics in meadows or run-ins with a handsome country doctor or bulging four-armed bartender, Nora keeps bumping into Charlie Lastra, a bookish, brooding editor from back in the city. It would be a meet cute, if not for the fact that they've met many times and it's never been cute. There you go. Check it out if you think that sounds interesting. And the final book I rated 5 stars in 2022 is another Colleen Hoover book, and it's called November 9. If you like love stories with a little bit of suspense, I think you would like this one. Fallon meets Ben, an aspiring novelist, the day before her scheduled cross-country move. Their untimely attraction leads them to spend Fallon's last day in LA together, and her eventful life becomes the creative inspiration Ben has always sought for his novel. Over time, and amidst the various relationships and tribulations of their own separate lives, they continue to meet on the same day every year. And I don't want to spoil it, so I'll leave it at that. Those are the 5-star books from 2022, my top books of the year, the books I rated full 5 stars. I hope that you enjoyed hearing about all the books I read during 2022. I look forward to sharing even more with you, hopefully, in 2023. I have made a new reading goal of 52 books. That's about a book a week. But if I did it last year, I can hopefully do it again this year. So that is my reading goal for this year. 52 books. And if you made it to the end of this video, to this part right here, leave me a book emoji in the comments so I know that you've been watching all the way through. Just a little teaser for you, what I've kicked off 2023 with as far as reading. The books I'm currently reading are Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. And it's kind of a suspense, I don't know if I'd say thriller, but definitely kind of suspense, crime, maybe thriller. But that's what I'm reading right now. And then on audio, I'm listening to Desperately Ever After by Laura Kenyon. And it says Desperately Ever After #1, which makes me think that there's more books after that. So there you go. That's what I'm reading so far in 2023, which you'll be hearing more about coming soon. But thank you for watching. I hope that your January is off to a great start. Let me know what you're currently reading and if you're enjoying it. I hope you have a fantastic day, happy reading, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!